Hi guys, so let's have a quick look at how the blood in our body is filtered and urine eventually formed. So a couple of things here. You need to have an idea of how the nephron operates, on how the kidney, the structure of the kidney and the structure of the nephron. I've done a video on that. You can go check that out. So this is the structure of the nephron. It plays major role in formation of urine, right? So this structure is found in the kidney. Some part of it is found in the cortex and some other is found in the medulla, right? So let's start from the beginning of the nephron. So we have the blood vessels here that filters blood into the nephron, right? So at this point is what we call the glomerulus. I already discussed this in previous video, the glomerulus. Now, the blood at the glomerulus is being filtered into the nephron. Okay, so the blood is being filtered into the nephron. Now, remember, this glomerulus is made up of mass capillary. So we have a lot of blood vessels that come together to make up the glomerulus, right? So the pressure here is a little bit high. It's about 50 millimeter in mercury. That's the pressure. That's a lot of pressure. Okay, so because of that pressure, blood plasma moves into the nephron. The blood plasma moves into the nephron. Remember, I said the blood plasma. The blood cells do not move into the nephron because of their relative size. Right? So the blood corpuscle, that's the red blood cells, the white blood cells, and other cells in the blood do not move into the nephron. It is only the plasma, which is the liquid part of the blood, that moves into the nephron. All right. So when the plasma is filtered into the nephron, it is called the glomerular filtrate. Not referred to as the plasma anymore. It's referred to as the filtrate. Right. So this filtrate begins to go down until it gets to the collecting duct. But before it gets to the collecting duct, a couple of things happen here. We have what we call reabsorption. Now, the whole process I have explained is what we call filtration. Some people would call it ultrafiltration. It's the same thing, all right? So it is the first step, is the first step, number one, is the first step of urine formation, filtration or ultrafiltration, where blood is being filtered from the glomerulus into the Bowman's capsule, all right? So the next step in urine formation is what we call selective reabsorption. Selective reabsorption, right? So this part we know from our previous video that this part is the proximate convoluted tubule, right? In the proximate convoluted tubule, some substances are absorbed. And what are those things that are absorbed? We have the sodium ion, chloride ion, and we also have H2O, water. Now, where are they absorbed into? They absorb back into the bloodstream. So this is the blood vessel. Remember, ideally, this blood vessel wraps around the nephron, all right? But for the sake of this video, I had to unwind it so you would see where the blood is, where reabsorption takes place, okay? So these ions are reabsorbed back into the peritubular vessels. This is called the peritubular vessel. Peri. peritubular vessel, right? So this substance, the sodium chloride and water, is absorbed into the bloodstream. Okay, so absorption of sodium chloride is through active transport. Let me write that down. Active transport, while chloride ion is through passive transport. Then H2O is simply through osmosis. Osmosis, you know what osmosis is, all right? So that is what happens in the absorption. Now, absorption takes place at every point in the nephron. If you move down to the Henle's loop, we also have reabsorption of H2O, sodium ion, chloride ion. Okay, we also have reabsorption of that. Moving up to the distal convoluted tubule. Remember, we have the proximal and distal. Now, at the distal convoluted tubule, the same thing is still absorbed, right? So we have absorption of these substances into the bloodstream, but it is more special at the distal convoluted tube, because at this point the water, or the filtrate that leaks into the blood vessel, is being controlled by a hormone that is released by the anterior pituitary gland. That hormone is known as the ADH. The ADH. Where should I write that down? Okay. ADH. This is called the antidiuretic hormone. The antidiuretic hormone. It controls it. What it simply does is that it makes the distal convoluted tubule, and also not just the distal convoluted tubule, and also the collecting duct, to leak out more water. So ideally, about 99% of the water, or the filtrate in the nephron, is put back into the bloodstream, and about 1% is released as urine. Okay, so that's what happens there. Now, what is absorbed here? What is absorbed here? The same thing is absorbed into the bloodstream: sodium ion through active transport, chloride ion through active transport, and also water via osmosis. All right, so that is that. So let's say the step 2 is absorption. Some people may call it selective reabsorption, rather reabsorption. So the step 2 is reabsorption. Some people may call it selective reabsorption, right? So that's the second stage in ultrafiltration, in urine formation, rather. So the next thing that happens is what we call secretion. Secretion, let me state that down, which is the third step. Now, secretion is like the opposite of absorption, all right? So absorption is simply putting back some substances into the bloodstream, but secretion now is substances move from the bloodstream back into the nephron. So it's like the opposite, all right? And most of the secretions, mind you, the secretion happens at almost every part of the nephron, but most of the secretion happens at the distal convoluted tubule. It happens at the distal convoluted tubule. And at this point, the substances that are secreted into the distal convoluted tubules are, so we have, this is absorbing. So let's say we have substances moving back at the distal convoluted tubulus. And what are the substances that can move back? They are urea, Sorry, the board is messy because it's a little bit small. The board is small, so I can't write a lot of things. So urea, uric acid, We also have creatinine. Creatinine is one of the things that is secreted into the nephron itself, right? Creatinine. We can also have things like um, drugs, and toxic substances. Drugs and toxic substances is being secreted into the nephron, right? So the filtrate, all the filtrate that moves here, absorption taking place, absorption taking place, and reabsorption taking place. When this is reabsorbed, when this is secreted, when these are secreted into the nephron, it is finally expelled into the collecting duct. Now, if you notice, this collecting duct has other entrance. Now, these are just other nephrons that connect to a single collecting duct. So literally, you have other nephrons connecting to a single collecting duct that leads it down to the pelvis or the kidney. All right. So the filtrate moves and gets into this point. Now, immediately it gets to the collecting duct, it turns to urine. It turns to urine. All right. And it is passed into the pelvis and to the ureter, right? So this is how urine is formed in the body. From filtration to reabsorption, you have some substances moving from the nephron into the peritubular vessel, and secretion, some substance moving from the peritubular vessel back into the nephron and expelled into the collecting duct as urine. Okay, so this is how urine is formed. Thank you and see you in my next video.